Welcome to the 2020 New Testament Challenge. Today we're in Colossians chapter 4. Here Paul is going to be talking about effective ministry. Now, ministry is not just for those that are clergy in the church. It's for all of us because we've all been called into ministry. As part of God's family, we all have a job to do. And there's three essentials to ministry for every one of us that he talks about here in chapter 4. They are prayer to God, proclaiming the word, and partnering with others. Let me share with you what he says. In verse 2, Paul says, "Devote yourselves to prayer, being watchful and thankful." And pray for us too, that God may open a door for our ministry so that we may proclaim the mystery of Christ, for which I am in chains. Pray that I may proclaim it clearly as I should. Be wise in the way you act toward outsiders. Make the most of every opportunity. Let your conversation always be full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone. Paul is telling us here exactly how we should be doing ministry. And he says, first, that we need to be faithful. He says, devote yourselves to prayer. That means we need to be earnest. We need to be regular. We need to be consistent in our prayer. And as we're praying, we need to be watchful as well. That means we're vigilant. Just like a sentry standing his post, we are watching because there's an enemy that might be lurking all around. Can you imagine if you are standing at a post in Baghdad, how alert you would be, how watchful you would be, because you know you're on enemy territory? Well, that's exactly where we're at today. The enemy is prowling around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. So we need to be faithful and we need to be watchful. But he said we also need to be thankful as well. Our attitude should be one of gratitude. We should be thankful that God is with us, that he is speaking and that he is working. And then there's a purpose behind it all. Paul is saying, as you're praying and as you're watchful and as you're being faithful, pray that we would have an open door, an open mouth, and an open life so all could see. He says that we have an influence upon other people. Be wise in the way that you act towards outsiders. They are watching. And we're either influencing them for the good or for the bad. We need to be influencing them for Christ. And then he says that people are always going to be listening and they're always going to be watching. It's true that people will never remember all that you've said or all that you've done, but they will remember how you made them feel. And that's what Paul is saying here. Make sure that your conversation is always full of grace, seasoned with salt. What does that mean? It means that we have an opportunity to affect other people by what we say and by what we do. And then, beginning in verse 7, Paul starts listing names. In fact, there are 11 people that he mentions by name. In the book of Acts, there's 100 people that he mentions. What kind of people does he talk about? Here in this chapter, he's talking about those people that stayed with him, those people that prayed with him, but even those that strayed as well. Paul is so thankful for each one because they've had an influence and an impact in his life. But he also wants to encourage them to remain faithful. In verse 17, this is what he says. In the letter, as he ends it up, he says, "Tell Archippus, see to it that you complete the work that you received in the Lord." He was encouraging this person not to go halfway in their obedience, but to go all the way, to fulfill the calling that God has upon your life. May I say as a pastor that God has a calling upon your life and mine as well. And just like Paul was encouraging here, we need to go all the way as well. Don't stop short. Don't go halfway, but fulfill the calling for which God has upon your life. What is that going to take? We need to be faithful in prayer, in proclaiming the word, and in partnering with others, because we can't do it by ourselves. We need each other. So be faithful, be watchful, and be thankful. And when we are, we'll be the influence that we desire to be on others. Thank you for joining the 2020 New Testament Challenge.